Welcome, ladies and gents. It's yet another episode of the Field of 68 Best Bet Show, presented by our fine sponsor, BetRivers. Matthew Cox running the point tonight. Kai McKeon, Jim Root, the usual threesome. Fellas, how we feeling today? A little cold, a little frigid here in Chicago, Kai. We'll hope to keep the bets hot. Nice little bounce back for the weave on Sunday. The Monday off day sacrifice. Now we're back in the routine. I'm going to you first, my fellow Chicago brother, who will be attending a local D1 Hoops game tonight. What did you learn last night, though? We'll get to tonight later, but last night, what did you learn? Small slate.
Well, Matt, last night. Okay. Overall theme here. Don't overreact to teams on a game-by-game basis. I'm talking about Illinois right now.
Writing this down.
I think everyone already wrote off Illinois after their struggles. They win a tough one on the road against Iowa. Looked pretty good. The same thing's I'm going to say about Michigan later in the show. You can't take these small sample sizes, Jim, and declare them truth. We see a lot of people doing it. From a betting perspective, it's not a good idea, is it?
No, it's not, Kai. But what should we do about Florida? Do we overreact to Florida laying an egg against Texas Southern? No. Here's the fun part about it, though. Matthew, your friends at Shot Quality rated that game as a 24-point win for Florida. They win that game 99% of the time based on the quality of shots gotten. That surprises me, considering they basically got doubled up on the glass. It feels like there was a little bit more domination in that game than those numbers show. But Florida was bad. They were bad from the start. They got blown out in the second half. Texas Southern, pretty impressive win there. And maybe the Gators are less for real than we thought.
Yep, I was sort of a little bit skeptical given the hot start, but I don't know. I tend to think last night was more just a fluky bump in the road, an awkward non-con spot. Florida's pretty legit. That defense is for real. Just kind of a weird matchup there against Texas Southern. My takeaway, the New Mexico State rivalry with some juice infused into it. My goodness. Overtime battle, wild buzzer beater. The visiting Aggies go into the pit and get a big W there. Chris Jan's pretty funny quote after the game, basically saying, defending his players who were stomping and reportedly spitting on the logo at halftime. Because
end of the game, not at halftime.
End of the game.
Not at halftime.
At the end of the game, but in the middle of the floor, sort of like the Terrell Owens goes to the middle of the star and spikes the ball, and everyone goes haywire. But try to defend his players, saying that there was some similar behavior on the New Mexico side. I don't really know what's true. I just love that these local rivalries are back, and the fans in the stands just infuse an extra layer of juice to it. So hooray for college basketball rivalries. That's my
I was watching that game, and it was the New Mexico announcers, and they were so disgusted. Like, oh no, they're at the middle of the, oh gosh, oh, this is terrible. And the fact that their players did that like a week ago is very funny.
It's great. Whenever you have the more irrational and the more one-sided both reporters and announcers can get, just the better the rivalry is. No question. There's no source of truth in the middle, and there never should be, especially with the rivalry as fierce as that one is down there in New Mexico proper. But hey, the show's pretty standard today. We'll get to a quick slate of games, get to your chat mob inquiries. But before we get into it, subscribe. It takes all but 2 seconds. I actually probably less than that. I haven't timed that from start to finish of click, point, finger. Jim, maybe you can do a few quick trials to see what that official time is. It's not a high effort thing, guys. Just do it. Please.
No, and if there's a 1,000 by the 17th, Mr. Rob Douster has said he will pay 5 people $100 that send a screenshot of them subscribing. So you can get free money, and I don't see why not. It's easy. It's a completely lack of resistance. Yeah, there you go.
You get to Rob. Yeah, exactly. So that's fun. Except everyone for Rob, of course. Mm-hmm. Let's talk games. Some big non-con showdowns tonight. We'll get to a lot of those here, but the marquee one, at least in our eyes, Rocky Top.
Jimmy V Classic, baby.
Oh yeah, Jimmy V Classic for a little back-to-back action here. But we have Rocky Top hosting Texas Tech. Jim, my Vols are starting to roll very quietly, not emphatically, but starting to get back on track after a tough effort there against Villanova earlier in the season.
Square Garden, Matt. Sorry, I heard you say host, and I was like, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, this is part of the Jimmy V Classic.
This and Syracuse are back-to-back. Do we have that wrong on the outline? If so, we apologize. This is a neutral site, very important part of the handicap. Do not give Tennessee.
I think my friend Matt might be the only one that thought it was at Tennessee.
Okay.
I think it was listed at incorrectly on KenPom maybe a few days ago. Anyway, okay. Nope. Anyway, Jim is certain that KenPom never had it wrong, so he is certain that is listed correctly. Anyway, this game's at Madison Square Garden. I love Tennessee. That's all I got to say. Kennedy Chandler, Santiago Vescovi are the driving forces there in the backcourt, Jim. And they got Josiah Jordan-James back last game, was a monster in and around the paint. We're finally seeing the perfect utopian version of this Tennessee team. Are they kind of a buy low right now, even though they're at a pretty expensive price, laying 4 against the who is
the Red Raiders?
My God,
oh,
I think
goodness,
their mascot,
Matt. Ooh, sharpen up, baby. I think they're. I don't know if I would say they're buy low, especially not at this number. 4 is high. I mean, Ken Pom has it 1. I think 1's low, but 4 is a little too much for me to lay. Texas Tech kind of hung around against Providence, or sort of hung around, but they just could not stop fouling. That was their big issue. Providence had 38 free throws. Texas Tech committed 29 fouls. Tennessee's not going to take advantage of that. They're 354th in free throw rate. They're not going to live at the line the same way. That's a little bit of concern. Kai, I am concerned though about Texas Tech handling pressure. They play this like 0 point guard system. Basically, it's a very decentralized ball handling rotation. I don't know if that works against Tennessee, who has some pretty impressive individual defenders.
Yeah, they do. And Texas Tech hasn't seen a defense like this. All due respect to Providence. Tennessee's defense is unreal this season and the last couple seasons. And Texas Tech, besides Providence, hasn't really played anybody. They got really inflated in Ken Pom, Matt, after playing a bunch of nobodies. They haven't played a top 240 foe outside of Providence. That's certainly concerning going against Tennessee, who, by the way, is 10th in Ken Pom. I think their value, Matt, is probably not undervalued, in my opinion, at the current price at 4. That feels high to me. I'm agreeing with Jim a little bit that Texas Tech +4 seems like a good value. However, it's not enough for me to take them against Tennessee today.
Yep, I just won't be betting against Tennessee the entire season, even if there's a really inflated price the other way. They're just one of those few teams that I think are in my pet portfolio of futures for national title contenders. Yeah, I mean, Texas Tech got a 14 against Providence, and they sort of let their foot off the gas, and then Providence called all the way back. So it's not like they were completely overmatched when they got tested in their first real test of the year. Just couldn't close out that game. First game back with Kevin McCullough as well. So a lot of ways you can excuse or defend that letdown second half for the Red Raiders, but I'm not betting against Tennessee. Final thoughts here, under, Jim? Yeah, right? Yep. I think we should probably talk about that. The chat's going crazy about it.
In the chat, I would certainly lean towards the under. I think both teams struggle to score. Neither wants to run that much. Texas Tech has run way less than Mark Adams claimed they were going to. I think they're outside the top 200 in possession length. I certainly like the under.
Agree. All right. Well, hey, we'll stay at the Garden for, again, the second of the Jimmy V Classic. Syracuse, we can't really say they're hosting, although they're the closest, I guess, to a home team here coming from upstate New York.
I actually think Villanova's closer.
Yeah, Philly might be closer to New York City than the upstate
really?
drive.
Syracuse.
It probably is, so. Actually. Yeah, it's probably like a 4 or 5 hour drive. That's a good point. Although it seems like the Garden always shows out well for the New York-based schools.
Man, I'm going to audit you with the old Google Maps here. See what's closer.
It's so useful. Thank you, Google, for your map capabilities. I mean, kind of the thing here for me is Syracuse played well last game. They've shown cracks this year defensively. The Colgate putting up 100 will be a running joke all year long. I think we look back at that as sort of a one-game outlier. Cuse is bad defensively. They're not atrocious. The question is, can they score? And Nova is defending like gangbusters this year. That's the question here. Do they have enough shot makers, creators to stay close to Nova?
Well, I think they do, man. They have shooting to stay close to anybody. I think that's their what makes them kind of a feisty dog. Two straight outright wins as a dog against Indiana and Florida State. I'm surprised how many times I've been on Syracuse, frankly. Usually the market's higher than I am. This year, for some reason, I'm a little bit higher in the market on the orange. But I think Villanova is a different beast, Jim. And obviously, I think everyone out there is thinking it. Villanova versus a 2-3 zone, that's probably not a good recipe for Syracuse. Villanova shoots over 42% from 3. There's a good chance they just shred it. But like I said, Syracuse has enough shooting, I think, to stay within 9-8 points. The line feels a touch high to me. I would have the ever so slightest lean towards Syracuse.
Yeah, the line's about right for me. The Villanova switching everything, I think, is going to give Syracuse a little bit of problems. The fact that they can do that 1 through 5, it's going to be a lot of ISO pull-up threes. Like, I think Joe Girard's going to take a bunch of pull-up threes in this one against Eric Dixon. I don't know if those are going to go in. I kind of doubt it, at least on a consistent basis. But covering 8.5, covering 9, that's debatable. Matt, the official verdict on maps is that Syracuse is 4 hours from Madison Square Garden. Philly is less than 2, so half as close. Shockingly.
Are you giving any home to Philly for the to Nova for the 2 hour?
I am not
reduction in travel.
I'm capping this as a pure neutral.
I gave it 0 as well. We should do like a regression model with the exact home by travel miles there, but no, we're not that technical. I think the key thing, Nova attacking the zone, right? Can they shred it? They're a great passing team, very unselfish. They have enough shooters, have enough length. Another one where the under feels a little bit enticing to me. Maybe we see sometimes in these large, high profile, bigger venues, we see some shots missed, although Cuse plays in the dome. So this, like, the backdrop's not going to be a seismic shift to their general psyche. And like I said, lean Cuse at +9, but not at 8.5. I think you have to wait for it to hit 9 if you're looking to come in on the orange there.
They have not played since 2014 for the record. This was an old Big East matchup, obviously. A ton of overs in the series history.
Interesting.
Jay Wright must have the zone kind of dialed up, and this is obviously a bad version of the Syracuse defense, but it's probably in the number 7 years ago. What's the history really matter? So, not much.
Yeah, I was thinking that Syracuse had an advantage in non-conference games in general, just because the non-conference teams haven't seen the zone. We've seen that unfamiliarity work well in the tournament, but actually Cuse has been pretty poor non-con the last 4 or 5 years. Again, each team different. You have to take that with a grain of salt. But in general, that unfamiliarity angle isn't really there, even though it might feel like it is on the surface. Next game here, Butler at Oklahoma. True home game here. Going down to Norman Kai. The Sooners will be hosting the beaten down and fairly pathetic Butler Bulldogs at this point. It's just sort of a sad issue. It's become tiresome to keep track of who's playing. Bryce Enzi is the notable guy still out. They have a couple other key guys still out of the mix. They did get Chuck Harris back, but I mean, he was around in the early part of the season when they put up some stinkers. Is there any shot Butler keeps us within double digits?
There's a shot, but why would you touch Butler right now? They just got out of a war with Saginaw Valley of all teams.
It's a nice ball club there.
Yeah, and Oklahoma's going to force turnovers. Their defense is very, very good. Butler, their greatest hope is making it ugly. It's something they can definitely do, and Oklahoma's not going to push the pace like crazy, so it could be a pretty low possession game. The question is, OU is 2-3 as a double-digit favorite, Jim. They're not a great double-digit favorite, which makes sense considering their style of play, considering their pace. I just don't know why you'd want to bet on Butler right now. I'm just too scared with Enzi on the shelf and the way Oklahoma can score inside the paint.
Yeah, I'm close to forcing an Oklahoma bet here. I don't regard this the same as like a -25 situation for Oklahoma. I mean, they're barely a double-digit favorite. Butler's just been awful without Enzi and without some of their guards. They're 350th in turnover rate. Like, they are so sloppy. I mean, some of that's the schedule, but man, their guards just do not take care of the ball. They're young, they're careless, and Oklahoma's 35th in steal rate, Matt. We know that Harkless, we know that Goldwire, those guys can pressure the ball.
Excellent
Gibson's been a
right.
pretty good on-ball defender as well. That scares me quite a bit. I think Oklahoma jumps out early and gets up like 7-12, and then it's just kind of like a gross game from there.
Yeah, and with the banged up Butler front line, they're going to have to defend Tanner Groves on the other end, who's been a revelation, sort of a mini Cam Crutwig, although that's sort of it's a reach of a comparison. Moser is using him as an interior fulcrum of trigger man in the offense, so to speak. Going to be a tough cover for the Bulldogs. I do lean Butler. I just think the spread's really big for an Oklahoma squad. We saw struggle to get away from Houston Baptist. Yeah, they blew out UTSA early in the year as a large favorite, but that's a completely dumpster fire of a team that was horrible at that point in the season. I kind of think this game gets ugly and Butler might sneak inside the number. But like Kai and Jim said, you don't need to be excited about playing Butler at any point right now at any price. So don't force it. Another hybrid mid to high major non-con showdown here. We have SLU, the Billikens, hosting Belmont. Jim, the Bruins, 2 straight, what I would call motivated roadie victories. They go into rival Lipscomb. They catch a Bison team without their best player. Ossadula down for that game. Got kind of lucky. Ran him out of the gym. Then went to Sanford, a place where they had some unfinished business after the Bulldogs looked dominant in that one. Now they go to SLU, and there's no sort of rivalry, revenge, motivational angle. Feels like maybe this could be a clinker spot, or is Belmont just awesome?
I'm worried about the spot too. I wrote that down. This is weird. Like I thought Sanford would have been a dead spot had they not lost last year. And then they had to bring it. Sanford pressed them for 40 straight minutes, did not give up despite being down 15 in the final 2 minutes. They were just trying to wear out the legs of Belmont. So that concerns me. Except SLU's coming off playing a pressure team too. They got worn down by UAB's depth. There's no shame in that, but it certainly showed up late in that one. I think SLU can get after it on the offensive glass, Kai. That should be a route to points for them. I also kind of like the over here. SLU is playing fast this year. They are not as good defensively as they used to be. KenPom projects this at 152, and the total is 149 and a half or so. Not saying that's like the Bible in KenPom. I just think this is going to play fast. Both teams are willing to run. They need to run to score. So I lean towards the over here, Mr. McEwen.
Yeah, on a relative basis, I think SLU still might be better than Belmont, and that's not a popular take, but I think it's very possible. We've just seen both these teams play very, very good. We've seen both these teams kind of lay an egg, and SLU was only favored by like 1.5. I really liked it at that price. 2.5 is probably closer to the correct value here. I agree, Jim. I think SLU on the glass is the key here. Belmont probably struggles more. I will say definitely struggles more, Matt, against more physical teams. This is not the physical SLU we normally see, but they still play with that same sort of style, at least with the glass attack, at least with trying to get to the free throw line. So I think that actually hurts Belmont a little bit. They're a little bit weak in terms of physicality. I think that favors SLU, especially at home. SLU's 15th nationally in field goal attempt percentage at the rim. Belmont 211th in field goal percentage defense at the rim. I think SLU has an advantage there tonight, Matt.
Yeah, I'll say I'll no take on the side. I think the line's pretty sharp. Sounds like how you're leaning more toward the Billikens.
I lean Billikens.
I think I'm with Jim. I think the over is the best advantage play here of any side or total. Two reasons why. St. Louis, as you mentioned, is starting to push the pace. Yuri Collins, and then also DeAndre Jones, the backup point guard transfer from Northwestern State. I mean, Central Arkansas yep. Comes from one of the fastest tempos in the country. I think you can't slow him down. He has to play 100 miles an hour up and down all the way. And then guarding Belmont, an offense we haven't seen before, the myriad of actions that they have, backdoor cuts. I don't think SLU can cover that consistently for 40 minutes. I think those are two sort of undetected variables in the market that probably aren't picked up right now.
Yeah,
they're not in the market, I should say.
Yeah, for what it's worth, Travis Ford said explicitly when Perkins got hurt, like, we need to run to get easier points. And they are running. So I think there's very much truth in that. That's not fraudulent. Right.
And that is the true pace hasn't quite been detected yet. Yep. Agree. Over. And maybe a slight dabble on the Billies. Chat mob. A lot of questions as I look over peer into my upper left monitor. Who's running Czar today? Kai, Jim?
I got you, Matt.
Kai, do it.
Let's start with, I believe this one's not on the schedule, Navy George Mason. Now, Jim, George Mason. Wow. Talk about a hot and cold Jekyll and Hyde team. They have really fallen back down to earth after just a scorching hot start. And Navy is one of the worst teams in the world to fade. So who do you like in this game? I think it's up to 4.5.
I saw 5 at BetRivers.
5 right now.
People are hammering George Mason.
5.5.
I think people are not talking about how bad George Mason's been the last 5 games. They've lost outright as a favorite 3 times. They've just been poor. And I think people got so in love with the darling Kim English narrative that now they don't want to go back on that and say, well, actually, maybe they're not very good. And now they're underperforming their talent. I think that is fair to say. And Navy, man, they're so feisty, and they're up to like 130th in KenPom. That team's good.
Yeah.
I don't really want to fade Navy right here at all, especially with the way the number. I would be closer to taking the midshipman punching back than anything else.
Yeah, I agree. Especially at the current price. No way. No need to fade Navy.
Hey, Matt, let's go to you for Brown and Merrimack. This one is -2.5 in favor of Brown. They've been awesome this year, 7-2 against the spread.
I was going to make Merrimack one of my best bets. Spoiler. I looked back at the old matchups. So Merrimack's first season 2 years ago in Division I, Brown and Merrimack played that year. Brown had 20 offensive rebounds, 56% of their misses they grabbed. Obviously, you're making comparisons from teams year over year apart, loose at best. But I think the style and DNA of Brown is similar to that old Brown team. It's athletic. They're long. They'll get to the glass. Merrimack's still playing that shifty zone. They lack size, Jim. I love taking Merrimack and non-con. I think there's value here at the current price. I am on Merrimack. Just my concern is it's a bloodbath on the interior.
Yeah, this is not like what you picture as an Ivy team. Brown is like leaned into athleticism and defensive length, and that's not really what you expect from the Ivy, but that is where they can have some advantages here. I think they're going to struggle to score in the half court without rebounds. Like, their perimeter shooting is not very terrifying against the zone. I'm not sure their ball movement's going to be as good as it needs to be, but I lean towards Merrimack. Brown just has spooked me. They've been really, really good. Yeah. That's nothing else to say. They got Dan Friday, their point guard, back last game. That certainly helps as well.
Jim, Temple Vanderbilt, 8.5, I believe, is the spread in favor of the Commodores. Temple without Caleb Battle covered against Penn. They
dominated Penn.
They didn't look too bad.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this. I mean, both teams have injuries. Chapman and Robbins still haven't debuted for Vanderbilt. Temple was better than I expected. This one's a stay away for me. I need a little bigger sample without Battle before I start heavily investing on or against Temple.
Yeah. Matt, I have no clue if you have a feel in this game, but Southern is playing at Kentucky. Sean Woods, he's back in the building.
He's back. He is back. It got bet up pretty heavily, so some folks see a UK runaway. I think Southern's feisty. It feels like every year their roster changes by the day, so it's just tough to take them unless you're going to check lineups and hawk starters and all that stuff, which I have no interest in doing with this team. Also, that point in the year where I think the large non-con, the SWAC, the MEAC, the Southland feisty dogs we saw are going to start to fade a little bit. So now is not the right time to get behind Southern here on the road.
Jim, Tom Howell is asking about Eastern Illinois. Why should we be taking Eastern Illinois against our Mizzou Tigers today, plus 18?
Why shouldn't we be? I think he's saying, why should we not be auto fading Mizzou right now? The only reason I can give is that Eastern Illinois is legitimately a bottom 5 team in the entire country. Like they're really, 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 really bad. They just beat North Park, whatever that is, by 4. Yeah. And EIU it's gross. If there's one team Mizzou can just suffocate and allow 35 points and cover by scoring 60, it's probably EIU. But we are back on auto fade Mizzou after this game.
Hey, we saw real quick for those Mizzou fans who watched the Northern Illinois game. Eastern Illinois is a whole cut below Northern Illinois, and NIU. We just all bet EIU against NIU, and it was basically a 10-point game the whole way. So Mizzou can certainly cover. EIU is that bad in that much of shambles right now.
Maybe under. Neither team can score.
Last one here before we get back to the rundown. Matt, Furman, Winthrop, Furman, -2. Markets slightly on their side.
And tough one here. I over maybe. The pace intrigues me. I think both teams want to get up and down and run. Jim, what are you looking at here? I have no take on the side.
Furman just played an overtime and a double overtime game back to back. That spooks me a little bit for both over and backing Furman. Stay away from me for that reason.
All right, Matt, back to you. Rundown.
All right, conference play. We got the Cornhuskers. They're going to host Michigan, Jim. The Wolverines got back on track over the weekend, sort of chucked the monkey off their back, beat a tired and weary San Diego State team. I want to put a little asterisk next to that when the Aztecs playing at 10 a.m. their time, early tip.
Central and
down a starter as well. So, we can't really declare like Michigan got it. Now they're back and they're going to start ho-humming like we thought they were early in the season. Nebraska's been feisty. I thought their first conference effort, Indiana, was fairly impressive. This is Michigan's first conference game. Nebraska trying to avoid 0-2 start in conference. What are you looking at here?
Michigan's strange because you could argue that Diabate is their second best player, but he doesn't mesh well with Dickinson. So Diabate played only 7 minutes against San Diego State, and Dickinson went nuts. He was like 10 or 11 for 16 from the field. He was 3 for 3 from deep, guys. Hunter Dickinson. Before that game, he was 1 for 9 in his career. Wow. So I'm going to call that a little bit aberrational, a little bit of a mirage. But the fact that they featured Dickinson is the important part. Like they need to be feeding him the ball repeatedly. Yeah. He's their best offensive player. He makes everyone better because of the attention he garners. I think that was a good sign. And he gets more shots, though, against teams that have a big and think they can like kind of defend him. Nebraska doesn't really have that. I think they're going to do a lot of the overhelping, the doubling, the fronting with a guy behind him. It's going to have to be the other guys. They got a Caleb Houston hot game last time out. I don't know. I lean towards Michigan, but at the number, nothing for me right now, Kai.
Yeah, line hasn't budged. Michigan on the road / away from home hasn't been great. They're 2-2 against the spread, depending where you got UNLV. 1-3 if you got UNLV at a better number before the closing line. And Nebraska certainly competed with power teams. NC State 4 overtimes. They were up 10 early on Matt's Indiana Hoosiers before pretty much crumbling. Going back to the early part of the show, I think people are pulling the plug too quickly on Michigan. This was still a really young team that was always should have taken a while to get together. We just overreacted early on when they looked immense right away. And we're like, oh crap, they are like top 3 good again. I still think they could be top 10 good again. So to automatically put them in a fade bucket, I think is incorrect. 7 feels right to me on the spread, Matt, and Nebraska can compete, especially at home. So I am staying fully away. Just want to give that caveat to fading Michigan automatically now.
Yeah, and you got to give a ton of respect to Nebraska at home. They have that sort of advantageous location, Big Ten, Matty Maps, Jim on the Google machine. You don't need to look that up, but to know that Nebraska is fairly west for Big Ten geography. The thing for me here is I'm just surprised Nebraska's been as good as they have without McGowan's. I thought he was really the heartbeat, the impetus of the offense, but they've really shuffled things around. Verge has played very well. McGowan's brother Bryce has played very well. So yeah, I think Nebraska is pretty legit this year. This is not a team that can be completely dominated inside. They can drain threes and take you out of your comfort zone. I think
watch out for my guy Tominaga.
Tominaga is absolutely cash, and he'll shoot it from 35 plus without a thought. So Brandon Johns better be ready to guard that if you're on the stretch 4 matchup.
Tominaga is a 6'1" guard for the record.
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking tiny. Of who's the other the stretch guy to have. Yeah, Wilhelm. Yes, Wilhelm. Yeah, who shoots from 35 and he looks like he's 7'10".
I think Nebraska's better without McGowan's. It cleared up their pecking order. The first 3 games,
he could. It's possible.
3 poor efforts. First 3 games, they've been pretty good since then. Now Verge is like, oh, nice. I don't have to share the ball anymore. And McGowan's brother.
It's Alonzo Verge time, says Alonzo Verge.
Exactly. And Kobe Webster, a guy who wants to shoot a lot too. So you're right. They already have 2 chuckers there. You can't really have 3. It's probably a, little bit of an island misfit toy situation. All right, let's keep on rolling here. Going back to the East Coast, Vermont headed to the Dunk. Providence going to play host to the Catamounts Gym. Very impressive effort from Providence against Rhode Island, at least in my eyes. I thought they would struggle with the length and physicality of Rhodey's interior defense, which had been next to impenetrable coming into that game. But they showed out well, dominated inside in a big rivalry game. Still no Jared Bynum. We feel like we have to mention that every time they come up on the board, but do we care anymore?
The first point I wrote down is there a chance Jared Bynum does not matter? And the Breed and Durham kind of by committee at point guard has worked out fine. I do think they got helped by the home reffing. Again, they took 38 free throws against Texas Tech in that game.
That's a lot.
I don't think they're getting 38 free throws against Vermont. I think Providence's value is inflated a little bit. The huge win at Wisconsin looks incredible right now, but Johnny Davis didn't play. Like, there's no way they win that game if Johnny Davis doesn't play. I think that is a massive, not blemish in their resume. It's just an asterisk that needs to be noted. They've played like 3 straight good games, blew out Rhode Island, took care of Texas Tech. I lean towards Vermont here, Kai.
Yeah, Providence 3 straight covers. Their resume is ironclad.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. It
looks very, very good. It's Ed Cooley's best offensive team since 2015. They're actually scoring the ball well. Noah Horsler's been immense.
He's been awesome.
Former Birds of Trey, North Florida transfer. Vermont, I still think they're pretty good. They've had a couple close losses. I'm not too worried, Matt. And I definitely think that 3-point percentage is going back up. 26.5% from deep for this Vermont team. No way. They are a much better shooting team than that. It's absolutely going to change. Perhaps it's tonight. Vermont's nails on the defensive glass. They do not give up offensive boards. And that's something Providence certainly had an advantage of in their past games. So I think Vermont can keep this close. I'm leaning towards the Catamounts.
Yeah, I was too. It's come down below 7. I think 7's a key number where you would like to have hopped in on Vermont. If it creeps back up to 7, I'd say hop in. My Providence 2 cents is basically every individual player is playing to the close to max level of his potential, in my opinion. And that's no disrespect to those players there. I just can't believe Noah Horsler's been this good. Al Durham's been awesome on the ball. Justin Minaya came back. He looks great. Nate Watson is playing his best ball of his career. So either that's the real truth, and we'll see that throughout the rest of the year, or there's some regression individually coming. And I think Providence could be a sneaky good fade. Another non-con showdown here. Very fun to see Virginia going on the road. Love when we see these high majors go to mid majors and test their road fortitude. Kai the Dukes, James Madison, one of our darlings so far this year. Going to be a fun little tempo war. Mark Byington, the boys love to get up and down. Virginia, well, they not really their MO. Who wins that, and does it matter from a spread perspective, which has come down? Some early money on James Madison here.
I think it matters from a spread perspective a little bit because Virginia always controls the pace, like 99% of the time. But I think there's a real chance the Dukes win this outright. The fan forums for JMU are hyped for this game. This one sold out a while ago. Clearly, it's a big name team, in-state as well, coming to JMU's venue. And JMU's actually good this year. And Jim, shooting's been their huge issue, which is bad against a Virginia defense. But I swear they have capable shooters.
Yeah,
this team is good. They have talented guards and wings. They're going to make shots eventually. It's coming. Hopefully, it's against Virginia tonight. Their defense is pretty good too. That's what's really kept them in the games, and their shooting's gone cold. And really pretty good is all you need against Virginia's offense right now. I think JMU gives them a real scare tonight. If not, they win outright.
Yeah, I almost, if this was still at 5, it would be my best bet. I think James Madison wins outright. I'm with you.
5.5.
Is it 5.5 right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, went back up. Yeah, bring some buyback.
On show ad then. James Madison plus 5.5.
I
will have
Jimmy.
We'll have two best bets today. I think they get it done. They have never beaten Virginia. I think they're 0-11 all time. I know that's on their mind, and this is as close as they've ever been to being as talented as Virginia. This Cavs roster is nothing to write home about, and James Madison's got a lot of depth, a lot of athleticism. You need to make sure Falden and Wooden play. They sat out their non-D1 game, but I think it was just rest. They're a deep team
key right there. Mm-hmm.
As long as they're in, then James Madison is a good bet here. Even if they don't win outright, which I do think they will, I think having that 5.5 is enough.
Agree. 5 and above. I'm on the Dukes. I think Kai said my point basically. James Madison's been awesome, and they haven't yet made shots. And I'd argue that's one of their key strengths, at least so we thought coming into the year. So there's even more value, I think, on a team that's already overachieved or outpaced preseason expectations in terms of how they're bringing price to the market. So go Dukes, go Byington and the boys in Harrisburg, Virginia. Is that right?
Harrisonburg, yep.
Harrisonburg. Google Maps. Matty Maps is off today. Need to get my geo sorted out here. Got the map actually behind my cover in the background. We'll relinquish that for our next show. All right, final game here on the outline. Kansas, UTEP, high major versus mid major. This one is at T-Mobile Arena.
Nope.
So
Sprint Center.
wrong.
They might have changed it, Jim, though.
No, is it really?
Yeah, Jim, it's changed.
T-Mobile acquired Sprint.
T-Mobile's too close to me. There's a T-Mobile Arena about 15 minutes from me, so you can't confuse me like that.
Jim, I love when he's so emphatic that he's correct. But nope, it is at T-Mobile Arena, formerly known as the Sprint Center. Tommy Howell in the chat can verify as a KC native. It's basically a home game for KU. They play here at least once every season. They show up very strong. You got to give some respect there to the Jayhawks playing as a quasi-host to UTEP. But Kai, Joe Golding and the Miners, they have been a giant killer. Well, I'm sorry. Golding has been a giant killer. I think he has the recipe to do it with UTEP here against the Jayhawks. What do you think? Upset City or not?
I'm going to split the thing here. It's T-Mobile Center.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Not T-Mobile Arena. So half points for Jimmy.
Oh, God. Don't give him half point for that. No.
That's
bogus scorekeeping.
The T-Mobile Arena is in Las Vegas, Matthew.
Whatever.
0 home for Kansas, Matt.
Yeah.
0. I disagree.
You got to give at least.
Do you guys remember when Kansas sucked at the Sprint Center for like 5 straight games? They lost to, I think, who they lose to? They lost somebody big. I don't think it's a big deal. They're playing at the Sprint Center. I don't.
I can't go 0. I can't go 0.
But the biggest reason, Jim, why I'm leaning towards UTEP, because I can't go confident against UTEP against Kansas. It's a look ahead spot to Mizzou. Mizzou's coming to town. Jim.
Oh God,
they're coming to the Fog on Saturday. Kansas
they're not even scouting Mizzou. They're not even. They're
UTEP.
skipping all scouting from Mizzou. It's just gonna be like scrimmages all week, and then we show up and they'll win.
They are worried about Kobe Brown, about Jalen Pickett. Kansas is not looking at this UTEP team seriously. Number's too high. I'm leaning towards UTEP.
Here's why they're not looking ahead, Kai. It's because UTEP put the fear of God in them a year ago. They played that random late scheduled game at Fog Allen. UTEP was up 9 with 7 minutes left. It was tied with 1 minute left. And I think Christian Brown and David McCormick and Ochai Agbaji are like, yeah, we can't take this team lightly. They really almost beat us in our house last year. So while I agree the number's too high, and especially even though I gave 1 or 1.5 for home here because of the crowd and the less travel, I still lean towards UTEP. I just don't think it's like a home run bet because Kansas is going to be paying attention. They just handled a bunch of pressure from St. John's, so I don't expect them to be terrified of UTEP's pressure. But Matt, it comes down to the number for me. I still lean towards UTEP.
I like UTEP as well. Do we like it at the current number though?
No.
That's the key distinction.
Right
open at 20.5, 20. Now it's down to 18. Yeah. I know we're talking about points in the high teens. They mean less. So I don't want to be picky about that. I think there's still value here. UTEP at plus 18. They're going to keep the pace low. The total's been bet down from 144.5 to 140.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So Golding, I think, knows what he's doing in terms of keeping it to a snail's pace. Should help them stay inside the number. They're going to be feisty defensively. They're healthier than they were earlier in the year as well. And they haven't shot the ball well. So 2 more notches on the undervalued belt there for our beloved Miners. Remember?
No,
I thought I taught you guys last time.
I don't.
You guys got that down enough?
I'm out on that. I'm so.
It's not hang loose. Not in Hawaii. It's just like a hammer, Kai. It's like a pickaxe.
I still
look it up online. It's a thing.
I mean, I know like what they're going for. I don't
like when I do it. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Then it's done. Hey, time for chat questions. Kai.
All right. Let's go with Bradley and Toledo. There you go, Brandon. A couple guys have asked about Bradley and Toledo. This one has also not moved very much. I think it's 4.5, 5 in favor of Toledo. Matt, you're usually a Bradley guy.
Yeah, the Sharps beat me to my Bradley boys today. I think it opened at 5.5, came basically 4.5 right now everywhere. Just too low. I would like to take Bradley at 5, but not anything lower than that.
Okay. And moving on to, let's go with Cal Baptist, North Dakota. Kind of weird one, Jim. We love Taron Armstrong. He's becoming kind of a darling now. Everyone's writing stories about him. Do you like them at minus 13, I believe is the current price?
No, it's about where I'm at with this game. North Dakota has been on this weird West Coast road trip. They played at San Jose State and got absolutely murdered in the second half by a San Jose State team that was missing a starter. I am not very high on North Dakota. I think they could be bottom 30 in the country bad. It's rough for them right now. So at the same time, though, Cal Baptist hasn't really blown people out recently. Couldn't get away from Cal Poly, so
can't get stops. They can't get stops, Jim. That's why I don't like them as a large favorite. As fun as they are on offense, they got to defend.
All right, let's talk to Paul Duquesne. I'm going to be in the building tonight. That's right, DePaul Duquesne. I don't know why I'm going to this game, but I wanted to go see some basketball. It's in my backyard. Why not? Matt, you went to the DePaul game last.
I did.
How'd they look in person? And we've been on Duquesne quite a bit this season. The line is 8. Duquesne, by the way, is like 500 against the spread. So we haven't done good or bad on them. Which way do you lean?
I mean, DePaul's just a bunch of athletes that's, disorganized chaos, true chaos, except for when Javon Freeman-Liberty has the ball and on occasion Jalen Terry, there's a little bit of shot-making creation. But they're pretty much relying on those guys to make something happen. They don't get it. They'll go get it off the glass. Defensively, when they play hard, they're really tough to score against. This feels like kind of a flat spot coming off the rivalry game against Loyola over the weekend, Kai. So I think the Dukes hang around here. I like +8.
Yeah, someone in the chat noted it's also sandwiched because they got Louisville this weekend. So it's like,
oh yeah, good point.
Why are they out for this game?
There you go. How about Charlotte and Arkansas, Jim? I believe this one's come down just a hair here, but we know Arkansas is capable of blowing teams out. It's at 18 currently at BetRivers.
Yeah, considered +18 is the best bet here. I think Charlotte hangs around. They've got enough down transfer talent. They slow the tempo. Arkansas has not been convincing covering spreads this year. They've had a couple very narrow covers in the final minute or so. They did not blow out Central Arkansas, and everyone blows out Central Arkansas. Oh no, they did. It was Little Rock, shorthanded Little Rock that they did not blow out, which is concerning because they were missing their best player. It's just not as sharp of an Arkansas team as I've seen in the past, especially as a big favorite. I would lean towards the 49ers.
You mean they're not a top 10 team, Jim? Shocking. Who could have seen
they're like 14th in the poll, Matt. So
yeah, wrong.
Matthew, LMU, Tulsa. The Loyola Marymount Lions have not lived up to their hype, we'll say, preseason. Line is 3.5 in favor of the Frank Haiths. What do you think?
Feels a little bit high. I would lean LMU. The travel's just weird. This is probably my most apathetic game on the roster. I don't really have a strong opinion either way. It's going to be ugly.
Usually is that way.
Tulsa is kind of right. Anything about Tulsa, it's going to have that type of boring conversation. I do lean the road dog here in the Lions.
Total's been bet down 3 points. I like that movement. I agree with it. I think might still be a little value on the under.
I got one more for us. There's another one coming in best bets that's been asked a few times. UMass and Northeastern, Jim. This game is a Boston affair, and I believe Northeastern's favored by 2. I want to say 2.
Oh wait, hey Kai, you got to be. It's Amherst, not Boston. Not that close. Make sure we're careful about that.
Yeah, UMass fans don't take lightly.
They take that very seriously.
Boston.
It's not
Amherst,
Boston.
not that close to Boston.
It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Separate,
right,
yep.
Jim?
I like Northeastern here. They're a little healthier. They got Tyreek Scott Grayson back in the lineup. Shaq Walters played last game. They're big on the wings. I think they can bother the UMass guards. I think there's a massive coaching advantage on the Northeastern side. Maybe the shooting and playmaking of the UMass guards plays up here, but I would lean towards Northeastern myself.
Just live bet this game. Both teams go through massive in-game swings.
That's
just
a great point.
Wait till someone gets down and bet the other side.
Middle it, baby. All right, Matt. Let's hit our best bets.
Yeah, I'll lead us off. I can't believe I'm going to fade my Grizz with my best bet today, but I think this is a ripe spot to do so. Talking about fading Oakland with Bowling Green, a team that we thought would be at the top of the MAC totem pole.
I can't believe this is happening.
This is shocking.
Kai and Jim almost nixed this and overruled my best bet,
No,
I have to.
No. I do not doubt the Matthew Cox. I do not doubt him.
Yeah, he's not been so hot though on the best bets this year. But hey, we're getting back on track today. one of these weird spots where it's a non-conference game sandwiched in between two conference games. So Oakland just had two impressive conference wins to get their conference season kicked off. Now it's kind of back into the non-con tune-up awkward no man's land period before the actual conference season starting in January. Just feels like a really flat spot here against a Bowling Green team that I don't think is as terrible as they've played, getting a little bit healthier. I worry that Bowling Green might just be bad, Jim, but I think catching Bowling Green as a 2-point dog, 2.5, depending on where you look, I believe BetRivers, our fine sponsor, has it 2.5. Two. That's fine. Take 2 now. I wouldn't take any lower than 2.
Yeah, just stay away from me. I just don't want to bet against Oakland much right now. They didn't cover against UIC, but it was because of a crazy late run.
Yeah, they're up huge. Yeah.
I'm worried without Myron Gordon still in the lineup. I don't know if he's in or out. That's the thing about Bowling Green. A player's out every single game that you don't.
I'm assuming he's out. Right. It'd be great to get him back, but I'm assuming he's out right now.
Yeah. Hey, good luck, man.
Thank you.
All right, my best bet. It's Old Dominion. It was -8 before the show. Let me get you guys the current line. -8. All right. Old Dominion's getting back on track. That's my opinion here. Jeff Jones fully back on the bench. He missed some games with pneumonia. He was semi-back for Longwood, a narrow win. Semi-back for East Carolina, a narrow loss. They look good against George Mason, who we talked about earlier, hasn't been that good. ODU hasn't played anyone bad, Jim. It's a fairly impressive schedule, honestly, full of really good mid-majors, and William & Mary has been bad. I'm hoping Quinn Blair is still out. I'm hoping Jake Milkwright's still out. William & Mary's 0-7 against the spread. They are -7.5 cover margin.
Horrendous.
They're prone to blowouts. The Old Dominion pace is scary. I think the rebound advantage, the toughness, the experience, all favors Old Dominion. So not a lot of travel here either. More geography. -8 for Old Dominion.
Is it Charles Smith, this SMU transfer that's been out?
Yeah.
Yes. A little bit concerning.
Yes.
So keep an eye on that. But I lean your way, Kai. I think William & Mary is like creating a new floor for that program this year. They are digging further and further beneath the depths of the world. It's bad.
This is a men versus boys game.
Yep. Very much so. Young William & Mary team. All right, my best bet is Yale, which actually is at -13 at BetRivers right now. So I'm going to take that -13 rather than the 13.5 that it was pre-show. I think the Bulldogs are coming off a tough matchup at Auburn where they were outclassed athletically. Albany has been really bad against the spread this year. They are not going to outclass Yale athletically. Major coaching advantage with James Jones against a first-year guy in Dwayne Killings at Albany. I think Yale gets right in a big way here, takes care of the ball against any Albany pressure. So give me the Bulldogs, -13.
I hate that I like both of your best bets better than my best bet. Not sure that's a good thing. But no, I agree with Jim. Albany they're playing a lot of freshmen. This is like a build for future type of season for the Danes. I think Yale runs away with this pretty handily. That's all we have, folks. Thank you for joining. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. Hopefully fewer geography lessons, more actual college basketball gambling breakdowns, but we'll see. We also have to fly by the seat of our pants here. Before we let you go, subscribe. We demanded you do so at the onset. We will remind you now. Smash that like button, all that good stuff. Continue to follow the Field 68 Network. They have tons of content coming to you around the clock. But tomorrow, same time, we'll see you back.